Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Hall Writes. In today's video, we're going to be going over some phrases that you should avoid in your college and scholarship essays, and I'm going to tell you what you should say instead. One of the phrases that I have seen multiple times in student essays is, "for as long as I can remember." Now, it is a bit of a catchy phrase, but the problem is that too many students are using this phrase. And quite frankly, the reason that students are using this phrase is because they're trying to convey that they have had an interest, a passion, or a hobby for the vast majority of their life, for several years. However, it would be much more specific and much more interesting if you actually tied this to a particular experience or gave us a concrete amount of time. So now let's look at two examples of what you can say instead. How can you convey that same idea without saying, "for as long as I can remember, I have enjoyed science," or "for as long as I can remember, I have loved basketball"? So these two examples convey that same idea without actually using that phrasing. Keep in mind that there are other ways to say this as well, but those are just two samples. Now let's look at the phrase like-minded peers, because students tend to use this quite frequently, especially in prompts that have to do with why do you want to attend this college or what made you choose this major. And the phrase like-minded peers is sort of this canned expression that doesn't really give enough detail. You want to take advantage of the opportunity to express your interests and also how you're going to interact with other people. Now, there's nothing wrong with the idea of like-minded peers because let's face it, we all want to find a place where we belong. And part of being a college student is figuring out where you belong in the student body. You're going to seek out people who share your interests. That being said, when writing about it, you need to specify what those interests are. It's also important to recognize that at college, you're going to be exposed to different viewpoints, either in class or in conversations with people. You're going to meet people from different backgrounds, and that can help enrich your experience as well. Here are two examples of times when students might be tempted to use the phrase like-minded peers. So in the top example, it's in reference to connecting with others for a particular extracurricular activity. And in the bottom example, it's more about the person's chosen field of study. So you're welcome to pause the screen and read these if you would like to, but these are just two ways to avoid that phrasing but still convey the same idea. The next phrase that you're going to want to avoid is, "I just knew." Now, students tend to use this phrase when answering a "why us" question. Usually this is a supplemental response where students are asked, "why do you want to attend this university?" And especially if the student is speaking about their top choice, it's really easy to say, "I just knew." But the problem is that's really vague because your reasoning for wanting to go to that college is going to be different than other people's. So you want to be very concrete. What is it that attracts you to that college? Now, I'm guilty of using this expression as well, especially as a high school senior. Once I found my top choice university, I just knew. But I had to ask myself, what made you know that? What made you decide that you wanted to go there? And so for me, it was because I had a list in my head of different must-haves and preferences. And this particular college met all of those, and it had things that I didn't even realize I was looking for. So I needed to include those specifics in my response, as opposed to saying, "I just knew." Here are two examples that convey the reasoning behind the statement, "I just knew." Now, both of these are in reference to a student going on a campus tour. And while I highly recommend doing so, I know it's not an option for everybody. Perhaps you're looking at schools that are out of state, or if you're watching this at the time that I upload it, we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so the schools might not be offering tours, or it simply might not be safe to go on a tour at that time. So there are other options. There are other things to talk about, and a lot of colleges are doing different types of virtual tours as well. So don't think that you actually have to tour the campus to have this kind of personal connection. Just think about what is giving you that feeling of "I just knew." Now, both of these responses are for a "why us" essay, and granted, you would want to give much more detail than I was able to provide on these slides. However, this is just an example. But sometimes students use the phrase "I just knew" when speaking about their passion. Like, why do you want to be a physics major? Well, I just knew. So in those examples, you want to tie it to a particular experience or revelation that you had. What caused you to realize that you wanted to pursue this field of study? So that would be another time that students might use that phrase, but in that case as well, you want to avoid it and give more concrete details. Another expression that students tend to overuse is "I have no words to describe." Now, most of the time that I see students using this phrase, It's because they're trying to convey something very personal, usually something negative that happened to them. But to be honest, if it's that profound of an experience, you need to take a second to figure out the words to describe it. This could be through vivid language or a metaphor, but you need to actually be able to describe it. Because quite frankly, saying I have no words to describe, while I understand that you're trying to convey that it was a profound experience, that expression is kind of a cop-out. But also, you want to be able to give detail. If you just say, I have no words to describe, then it's kind of a missed opportunity. Find those words, use those details. How were you feeling at the time? Use this as an opportunity to give more detail because that's going to make your essay more engaging. Whereas if you just say, I had no words, then that doesn't really leave your reader feeling connected to your emotions. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you found this video helpful, please give the video a thumbs up. That lets other teachers and students know that the video might benefit them as well. Also, don't forget to turn your notifications on because several of you have been leaving great ideas for future videos in my comment section, and I am working on those. You're not going to want to miss them.